she didn't grow up Hindu. She grew up in Ohio, attended church every Sunday, and had never set foot in a temple. Then, at 34, she read the Bhagavad Gita and said it answered questions she had been carrying her entire life. Today, she keeps a small altar in her kitchen, observes Diwali with her children, and calls herself Hindu. She is not alone. Across the United States, something quiet and remarkable is happening. While headlines focus on the decline of religion in America, falling church attendance, rising numbers of people calling themselves spiritual but not religious, one ancient tradition is moving in the opposite direction. Hinduism, the world's oldest living religion, is growing in America, and a meaningful slice of that growth is coming from people who were not born into it. According to the Pew Research Center's most recent religious landscape study, the Hindu population in America has more than doubled as a share of the population over the past 2 decades. Today, there are roughly 3.6 million Hindus in the United States, and while most are immigrants or their children, roughly 10%, that is, hundreds of thousands of people, are converts. The question is, why? To understand this moment, you have to go back to a single afternoon in Chicago. September 11th, 1893. The city was hosting the World's Columbian Exposition, a grand celebration of progress, art, and civilization. Alongside it, religious leaders from around the globe had gathered for something the world had never seen before: the first parliament of the world's religions. Among them stood a young Indian monk, barely 30 years old, wearing a saffron robe. He had traveled thousands of miles, almost without money, facing obstacles at every turn. When he finally walked onto that stage and opened his mouth, he greeted the 5,000 assembled delegates with words no one expected. Sisters and brothers of America, the hall erupted. Not polite applause, a standing ovation. Something in those 5 words cracked open a door. Here was a man from a colonized land speaking not as a supplicant, but as an equal, a teacher, a voice carrying wisdom that the West had never properly heard before. His name was Swami Vivekananda, and in the weeks and months that followed, he traveled across America, speaking in universities, churches, and parlors. He spoke about Vedanta, the philosophical heart of Hinduism, not as an exotic curiosity, but as a universal truth available to every human being regardless of caste, culture, or country of birth. He established Vedanta societies in New York and San Francisco, and then quietly he went home. But the seed had been planted. For decades, that seed lay mostly dormant in American soil. Then came the 1960s. Generation of Americans was questioning everything: the Vietnam War, materialism, the church. They were hungry for something their own tradition wasn't giving them. And at exactly that moment, a wave of Indian teachers arrived on American shores. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi taught transcendental meditation and attracted among millions of followers the Beatles, the most famous people on earth. When John, Paul, George, and Ringo flew to Maharishi's ashram in Rishikesh, the story ran on the front pages of newspapers worldwide. Suddenly, ancient Indian spiritual practice was not strange. It was fascinating. Life magazine declared 1968 the year of the Guru, and it wasn't far wrong. Paramahansa Yogananda had arrived decades earlier and had already built a following stretching from Los Angeles to New York. His book, Autobiography of a Yogi, published in 1946 and never once out of print, became one of the most quietly influential spiritual texts in American history. Steve Jobs famously requested it be the only book downloaded on the iPads given at his memorial service. Yoga studios began appearing on American streets, first in cities, then in suburbs. What began as a spiritual discipline rooted in Hindu texts became the most popular wellness practice in the Western world. Today, by some estimates, over 36 million Americans practice yoga. But here's what most people miss. Many of those 36 million yoga practitioners eventually begin asking questions. What is this philosophy built on? What are these words, dharma, karma, moksha, actually pointing to? And for a growing number, that question leads them somewhere unexpected. Into a temple. Into the Gita, into Hinduism itself. Here's the part that surprises most people when they learn it. Hinduism does not require you to abandon what you already believe. There is no central authority who must approve your conversion. There is no single creed you must recite. The tradition says, with remarkable consistency across thousands of years, that there are many paths to the divine, and that the path suited to your nature may be different from the path suited to someone else's. For Americans exhausted by religious rigidity, by the idea that one tradition holds the exclusive truth and all others are wrong, this is not a small thing. It is extraordinary. And then there is the philosophy itself. The Upanishads speak of a consciousness that underlies all existence. The Gita presents a conversation about duty, purpose, and how to live in the world without losing yourself to it. These texts engage with questions that psychology, neuroscience, and philosophy are only now beginning to ask with any seriousness. Questions about the nature of the mind, the self, and the relationship between the individual and the cosmos. One scholar noted that American culture has been quietly absorbing Vedantic ideas for decades without always realizing where they came from. The concept that all human beings share a fundamental dignity, the suspicion that consciousness is deeper than the brain, the growing acceptance of reincarnation, now believed by roughly 1 in 3 Americans, including many who still identify as Christian. And as organized religion declines, the spiritual hunger doesn't disappear. It goes looking. Today, there are hundreds of Hindu temples across the United States, from grand stone structures in New Jersey and Texas to small community mandirs in Ohio and Minnesota. Cities celebrate Diwali with public festivals. New York City's public schools now recognize Diwali as an official school holiday. In 2025, Tulsi Gabbard became the first Hindu American to hold a cabinet-level position in the United States government. 4 Hindu members now sit in the United States Congress. Hindu Americans hold the highest average educational attainment of any religious group in the country. And still, the conversation about who belongs to this tradition continues to widen. For the converts, the Americans who were not born Hindu, the path is rarely a dramatic leap. It is usually gradual. A yoga class becomes a meditation practice. A meditation practice becomes a curiosity about the philosophy. A philosophy becomes a way of seeing the world. And somewhere in that journey, a person looks up and realizes they are already living as a Hindu. They are not abandoning their heritage. They are adding to it. And Hinduism, a tradition that has always believed in the multiplicity of paths, seems remarkably comfortable with exactly that. There is something quietly profound happening in America's spiritual landscape, a religion born along the banks of the Indus River, older than most of human recorded history, is finding new life on the banks of the Hudson, the Mississippi, and the Rio Grande. Not through force, not through missionary campaigns, but through the oldest method of transmission. There is one person reading a book, sitting in silence, or walking into a temple and finding something they did not know they were looking for. The story of Hinduism in America is not just a story about immigration or conversion. It is a story about what happens when one of humanity's deepest traditions meets a culture still searching for itself. And in that meeting, something new is being born, something that is neither purely Indian nor purely American, but something that belongs to both. Perhaps Swami Vivekananda, standing in Chicago over 130 years ago, already knew what was coming. He called it not a religion but a universal human inheritance. America, it seems, is still unwrapping the gift.